Joker Folie A Deux, a film that I've been terrified of ever since I heard about its inception. You see, back in the day when the first Joker movie was coming out, I didn't believe that was going to work either. But thankfully, Todd Phillips managed to prove me wrong. He proved wrong my suspicions of the fact you couldn't make a standalone origin story to the Joker without Batman, let alone one set in a grounded, realistic universe. He proved me wrong at every turn, and I absolutely loved that film. I caught it opening day with one of my closest friends, and it was absolutely fantastic. I didn't think we needed any more, any less. I think the movie could have just ended there, and everything would have been perfect. And I was so happy when I heard that Todd Phillips said he had no plans on making a sequel to Joker. Unfortunately, that didn't stay the case, and now we have Joker Folie A Deux, a movie that I didn't get to see on opening day. All I heard about it from people up until it released on digital on October 29th was how terrible the movie was. But I put a pin in all of those thoughts. I was like, okay, a lot of people don't like it, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to judge it based off of my own merit. I'm going to see if I like this movie because I really hope that Todd Phillips proves me wrong once again and that this movie is fantastic. And to the world's resounding surprise, I hated it.
You what?
I know. What a...
Joker!
But it's the truth. I do not like this movie. But I do believe conceptually it's a fantastic film that could have been great if it wasn't a Joker movie. When you pull out all the Joker bits, the conceptualization of this movie is absolutely fantastic. But since you can't take that apart because that's a huge part of this movie, it fails as a Joker film. And that is not great whatsoever. And on top of that, I hate this movie on a more deeper, connected level because of the way that Todd Phillips made the film. And I will get into that later on in this video. So, we're going to cover why I think this movie could work as a concept, why I think it fails as a Joker movie, what Todd Phillips did that I absolutely cannot stand about this movie, and as well as going over some ideas that popped into my head while I was watching it over the half a day it took me to watch it. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that. It took me half a day to watch this movie because I was not having a good time watching it. I kept getting frustrated, pausing it, and being like, okay, I'm going to come back in a bit, and I'm going to keep watching it, and it kept happening over and over again until I inevitably finished the movie. So yeah, this was not a very fun experience for me. But as I was watching it, I did think of some different ways that I believe this movie could have worked, with Todd Phillips' ideal held intact, as well as the movie being appealing to fans in general, because there are people out there that do like this movie. So, without further ado, get it? Further ado, because the movie's called Joker Folie A Deux. Without further ado, put on a happy face, and let's talk about... I have a lot of negative things to say about this movie, so I would like to start off with the positive. As I mentioned a moment ago, conceptually, I believe Joker Folie A Deux is a fantastic film. A story about a psycho who becomes a personified hero for the disenfranchised individuals of the world that feel they've been slighted by society is absolutely fantastic. The idea of him falling into the trap of giving into this glory and admiration for a fictitious hero that people created that actually has nothing to do with him, not realizing these same individuals don't care about the person behind the mask. They don't care about the man behind the mantle that they created for him. He's just a vessel for their anger and frustration. Seeing him have to slowly come to that realization, realizing that he's not some kind of god, he's not some kind of martyr, he's not some kind of hero, he's just a monster that did something really bad, and now, because of his horrible decisions and giving in to the greed and glory of what these people have made and given to him, he's now burned all the bridges of those who actually wanted to help him, who actually wanted to save him, who wanted to help him become a better person. Seeing him slowly realize that throughout the course of the movie, eventually coming to the conclusion that this martyr, this hero that the audience, that the people want him to be, that they created for him, isn't real. That it's just something they made up. That it's just something that he isn't being. That it's not who he is, not who he ever was. And has to just realize he's a terrible person. He's not someone that did something great that's causing a revolution. He's just a terrible person that did a horrible thing that's now ruined his life because he was too stupid to realize that the people he was throwing his lot in do not care about him whatsoever. And then it tragically ends with their death. I think that is a fantastic film right there. But it's not a good Joker film. I don't think this works as a Joker film. If this movie was not about Joker, I would love it 10 times more. If you just made this a standalone film, introduce us to who this psychopath is, show us what they did in the past, and then basically have the same concept and outline of the story that happens in Folie A Deux happen, I think it would have been a great movie. Would it have made a crap ton of money? I have absolutely no idea. This is just a hypothetical situation. But I do believe that it probably would have just been straight up received well, and people would have really enjoyed the movie, because without it being about Joker, all of this stuff functions very well. But the problem is, this then segues into the fact that Joker is not a Joker film. Joker is a movie about Arthur Fleck, and that is not what people came to see. And I get the irony behind that, because the whole point of Joker Folie A Deux is that it's not a Joker movie. It's a movie about Arthur Fleck. Both Joker movies were never movies about Joker. They were movies about Arthur Fleck. And that, in and of itself, is one of the biggest flaws of this film. Because the first Joker movie is not a straight-up movie about Arthur Fleck. It is the story of how Arthur Fleck became Joker. And I don't just mean Joker as in like, oh yeah, he became the Clown Prince of Crime and all that stuff. No, I mean the first Joker movie was the story of how a man who's been beaten down by society, a man with mental illness, comes to the conclusion that he can't do anything. That life is just too hard, it's too terrible, and he has like the biggest crash out ever and becomes a monster. That is what the first movie is. That monster being personified by the Clown Prince of Crime, the Joker himself. That is what the first Joker movie is about. The problem with the second Joker movie is it backsteps on all of that development that Arthur had. Instead of this movie picking up right where the first movie ended, where we saw Arthur was full Joker, he was killing people, he was happy about it, he completely lost his mind, this movie starts off and it's just Arthur again. It's just flumpy, schlumpy Arthur just living his miserable life in Arkham, and it's like, I'm sorry, what happened here exactly? What happened to the guy from the end of the first movie? The guy that shot Murray on the Murray Franklin show. The guy that put the blood smile on his face. The guy that, it was alluded to, murdered his therapist while he was in Arkham based on him running through there with the bloody footprints. What happened to that guy? Where did he go? Because he's not in this movie at all. And the whole point of the first movie was bringing him to that point. So what happened? Where did he go? Is there like a Joker 1.5, like a deleted scene where I missed him losing this character development to just be Arthur Fleck again? Because I feel like I'm missing something here. I've seen both movies now, and it feels like there's a huge chunk missing that shows how he went from the monster Joker to Arthur Fleck at the beginning of this movie to then become a discount Joker in the middle of the movie to then realize that he's just Arthur Fleck again. And yes, I said discount Joker because I do not believe that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in this movie is anywhere near the level of quality as he was in the first film. I know a lot of people have been saying that they still like Joaquin Phoenix's performance as Joker in this movie. But the problem is, you're thinking about it from the perspective of the fantasy musical sequences. In those sequences, he's giving a good performance. He's doing the thing that you expected him to do, that you saw him do in the first movie. But the thing is, take out those musical sequences and think about what he actually did as Joker in real life in the film. He's, and I can't believe I have to use this word to describe the Joker, he's cringe. That is something I never thought I would say about the character, the Joker. A character who is deeply disturbed and terrifying. I never thought in my life I'd be like, yeah, Joker, kinda cringe, bro. I never thought I would have to describe that about a character that genuinely terrifies me. I love the character a lot because he terrifies me, and I think that's interesting about his character, but never in my life did I ever think I would see a story about Joker and go, yeah, bro, hella cringe. It's kind of hard watching him do this stuff because it's just like, secondhand embarrassment. That's how I felt watching him in this movie. Because when Arthur's in his Joker persona, he's making bad jokes that nobody finds funny, which, yeah, sure, he did make bad jokes in the first movie, but it was more from the perspective of him as Arthur Fleck being a bad comedian rather than him being Joker. It's a very different dynamic there. In this movie, he's making bad jokes. He's doing stupid crap, and he never really feels the same level of monster that he became at the end of the first movie. And like I said earlier, what happened to that guy? Because now I'm watching this discount version, this literal, we got Joker at home, head-ass motherfucker, and it's just like, what happened to him? What am I looking at here? Why is he acting like this? And it very much feels like that was the intention. Because like I said earlier, the whole point of this movie is that it's not about Joker. It's about Arthur Fleck. That's the point of Joker Folie A Deux. It is an Arthur Fleck movie that just happens to have Joker in it. The film's climax is literally about Arthur breaking down and coming to the realization that Joker is just a persona he created, a vessel for everything that he did, a vessel that the world is using to vent their frustrations through, and he has a well-acted breakdown inside of the courthouse where he's just like, Joker isn't real, it was always just me, I did these terrible things, everyone that's using Joker as like a vessel for all of this stuff, like, it's not real, Joker's not real, I'm just Arthur Fleck, I killed 6 people, I did these horrible things, and I deserve the death penalty. That's what happens to him by the end of this movie. And the point of it was that the audience wouldn't care when that realization came to be. Everyone who worshipped Joker, all of his fans that were using the Joker persona as a vessel to vent their frustrations, abandoned him. It's very clearly shown because Harley Quinn, who has been a mirror for the audience the entire movie, walks out on Joker there. And I am not exaggerating when I say that Harley Quinn is very much a mirror for the audience in this movie. Her character is only in love with Joker. The entire film, they explicitly show that she just cares about Joker. So much so that there's a very uncomfortable scene around the middle of the movie where Harley and Joker have sex together, but it's because she makes Arthur put on the Joker makeup first before she's able to have sex with him, because she only cares about him as Joker. And then when Arthur breaks down and says, there is no Joker, it was never a thing, she immediately abandons him and walks out on him, just like most of the audience did. And sure, that may have been the point, but something being the point doesn't mean that it's good. And I don't think that this is good, because Joker doesn't feel like Joker the entire movie. And I understand. It's because it's supposed to be about Arthur Fleck. But Arthur Fleck feels different than he does at the end of the first movie, because Joker is Arthur. They're one and the same. The first movie, as one of my friends greatly pointed out to me, is about the fact that Arthur virtually has one really bad day that eventually turns him into Joker. He has a huge crash out and becomes Joker. He becomes this monster, this clown prince of crime that has lost virtually all of his empathy. That's what happened to him at the end of the first movie. It wasn't a matter of him having a second personality, as this movie brings up, because it has a huge juxtaposition of, oh, well, we can save Arthur's life by proving he has a split personality instead of him just doing it himself. And the movie toils around with that, like, are Joker and Arthur two separate people? And obviously the conclusion at the end is that, no, it's just Arthur. Which is also true for the first movie, because it was never a matter of fact that Arthur had a split personality in the first film. It's just a matter of he had a massive crash out because he felt life was destroying everything that he cared about so much that he became Joker. So both of these movies virtually end with the same point, that there was only just one guy doing everything. But the problem is, Joker Folie A Deux gets rid of all of the character development that Arthur went through in the first movie to become Joker. And now that it's gotten rid of all that, it's telling this weird story about how people only care about the persona of Joker, but that persona doesn't exist and only Arthur Fleck exists, without realizing the fact that Arthur is Joker. They are one and the same. There isn't Arthur Fleck and the persona. Arthur Fleck is Joker. He became Joker. Everything that happened to him in the first movie turned him into that monster. It's not a switch he can just turn on and off. That's not the case here. It's very strange how this movie ends up like this. Arthur feels terrifying in the first movie when he finally crashes out and becomes Joker. All of that's just gone here. And I heard something from a very good friend of mine who brought up the fact that in this movie, and funny enough, this friend that I'm about to bring up has not seen this movie yet he accurately depicts how this feels. He brings up the fact that in the first movie, Arthur felt very strange. He was the odd man out in a city of normal people, and that made him uncomfortable to see. And then eventually, when he crashes out, you feel him be this terrifying presence because of all those weird and uncomfortable movements. Now that he's Joker, you feel how terrifying that is, because now the odd man out doesn't have the barrier that's stopping him from doing anything insane that could hurt a lot of people. And that makes him scary. But in Joker Folie A Deux, he's now the most normal person in the movie. I'm not even kidding when I say that. Even compared to characters like Harley Quinn and everyone else that's in Arkham, including the guards themselves, he feels normal. Even in regards to the lawyers going up against him, like Harvey Dent, and I don't remember her name very well, but the lawyer that was representing Arthur, they seem more crazy than Arthur does. Because why the hell is his defense attorney going so hard for him? Like, yes, I get defense attorneys are supposed to help the person that they're defending, but she's trying to get Arthur to prove that he is mentally unstable, even though there's no proof that he has a split personality. That's what she's trying to get him to prove. It's more like she's trying to help Arthur get off of his crime rather than trying to defend him properly. It's very strange. It feels like she's more a lawyer for a famous celebrity that's trying to spin the narrative in a way so they get off with their crime and move on with their lives, rather than trying to help him minimize his sentence in the most proper possible way possible. It's very strange, but Arthur feels like the normal guy here. He feels like a guy who, if you gave him, fame and recognition, he'd be like, wow, this feels nice. And then he does stupid stuff beyond that. Normal people do that all the time. And I don't understand why you would make a Joker movie where the character of Joker is the most normal person in the film. It feels wrong because the Joker is supposed to be unhinged. He's supposed to be the embodiment of madness and chaos incarnate. That's what he's supposed to be, and that's what makes him scary. But when you make him just a normal dude in clown makeup who doesn't have any of these terrifying mannerisms anymore, you're just kind of sitting there like, well, now he's just a cringe clown that's ruining his life because he's being stupid. And sure, again, like I've said multiple times, that's the point. The point is, it's just Arthur Fleck, this cringy dude, doing all this stuff. But that doesn't make it good. This message doesn't work because it's not taking the building blocks from the first movie, taking the character of Joker and adapting it in a way that functions with the story. It's just throwing all of that lore of decades and decades of character for the Joker and taking all of the development that Arthur went through to become Joker, the monster, at the end of the first movie, and getting rid of it to then tell a message about how Joker isn't real, how people shouldn't idolize him, and how it's always just been Arthur Fleck, this pathetic, stupid loser, which is not me saying that. The movie actually says that.
Which one of you is here? The poor, low IQ Arthur Fleck, or the Joker?
So yeah, it doesn't function, and it ruins itself as a Joker film because it does all of these things, which is extremely sad for me to see. I don't understand why you had to character assassinate the Joker to tell this story. I don't get why you had to do this, but I know why he did this, because throughout all of my research on why Todd Phillips made this movie the way he did, myself and other people that I have seen make videos and talk about this have basically come to the conclusion that Todd Phillips made this movie the way it is on purpose. It's 100% done intentionally. It's not like other movies that were bad where it's just like, okay, they made a stupid writing decision or they were influenced by the studio and that's why it ended up in this weird state that isn't very good. That's not the case here. Everything with Joker Folie A Deux was 100% intentional on Todd Phillips' standpoint out of pettiness and spite. And I cannot get behind someone who makes a film like that. Because the first Joker movie, Todd Phillips does not like how people came out of that movie. He's talked about how he feels people were thinking about Joaquin Phoenix and how he's going to face off against Batman. How if he fights Batman, he's going to be too old of a man. How a lot of people started idealizing him as a hero and a martyr. They were taking the wrong thing away from the movie. And I can understand that being upsetting and frustrating. As someone who makes reviews, if people misinterpreted what I had to say, I feel upset about that because you guys aren't getting what I was trying to tell you. And that's completely reasonable. But him then making Joker 2 in a way to hammer home his point in a manner that he knew would specifically make people unhappy. I can't agree with that. Constructing this movie so that most people aren't going to like it, it's not fair. Because so many audience members love the first Joker movie. Like myself, they hold it dear to their heart. And I didn't go into Joker 1 thinking that I was going to walk out thinking Arthur Fleck is some martyr, some hero. And I didn't walk out thinking that. I didn't go into it thinking Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was going to move on to fight Batman in the Batman or the new DC universe that James Gunn is making. That's not what I thought whatsoever. I was just hoping that he would take a character that I care about, that I've loved ever since I was a child, that scared me and thrilled my stories ever since then, that he would take them and make a good story with them, tell their origin story in a way that I can accept as a fan of this villain. And he did that. That's all I wanted from the movie. That's how I walked out of the theater. So why are fans like me and many others being punished for stuff that a small minority of people are feeling? That's not right. It's not fair that there are a lot of people getting punished for something they didn't do. All we did was enjoy the movie that you made. We loved it. We enjoyed it. We thought it was great. We were hoping that you would then take that reciprocation of love and put it into this sequel movie. But instead, you chose spite. You chose pettiness. You chose to make a movie that tells people you shouldn't follow Arthur Fleck. He's not a good guy. He's not a hero. You're an idiot if you think he's this kind of martyr. And although I think that message is perfectly fine, because there are a lot of people out there that are in some very dangerous communities that think that he is the good guy and they need a wake-up call. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. But then in regards to everybody else, then constructing the rest of the movie going, the Joker's not real. He's just a persona that Arthur created that people have latched onto. Arthur's just a terrible person and all this stuff. Joker's not real. You shouldn't care about Joker. And oh, look, I put in a fourth wall break with Harley Quinn to show how all of you fans are going to feel about this movie. That's not okay, because we didn't do anything wrong. We invested our love, our time, our money into the movie that you made, and we enjoyed it. And we hoped you would care about that in making this movie. But instead, you made a 2-hour soapbox message to tell the people who you disagree with that they're being stupid and wrong. And that's not fair to all of these people that enjoyed this movie. And I can't respect someone that's done this. Recently, Quentin Tarantino and Hideo Kojima have come out speaking about the movie. And Quentin Tarantino, paraphrasing what he said, basically respects Todd Phillips for the way that he made the movie, and he likes what he did with it, making a movie that people generally wouldn't like. And in regards to Hideo Kojima, he seemingly enjoys the movie. In what he says, he doesn't directly say he loved it. He kind of talks about the positives and negatives of the movie and how he feels like in 10 to 20 years, people are going to come back around on this movie and they're going to like it a lot more. And he praises Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga's performances. But I kind of don't agree with either of them. In regards to Kojima, I don't think that people are going to come around on this movie in 10 to 20 years, because the problem isn't that this is a misunderstood masterpiece like movies that have come out in the past because they've had, bad marketing and things. Like Scott Pilgrim, for example. That movie didn't do well when it came out in theaters, but it's since built up a cult following after the film came out. Because the thing is, that movie was never bad to begin with. People just didn't see it, and it didn't do well. But as more people were able to see it, it then came around and built up a cult following. Same thing with stuff like The Village. The movie was marketed more as a horror movie, but then when the right audience got to see it, it then built up its following and has now more of a positive outlook. But the thing is, with Joker Folie A Deux, this isn't a matter of people's outlooks. The people who should see this movie saw this movie, and they didn't like it. Saying that in 10 to 20 years, their ideals of what they want from a superhero movie is going to change, thus making this movie good, I kind of don't think that's right. I don't think saying that it's going to need to take people's perception and wants of a movie to completely change in order for this to be good, because that doesn't make the movie good. You're just saying that people just randomly one day in the future are going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I changed my mind. This movie is good now. I don't think that's how that's going to work. I think that's how it's going to work with this, because the right people did see this movie and they don't like it. There are people who do like it, and that's perfectly fine. I have nothing wrong with that. But I don't think people are just going to miraculously change their ideals and think this is a good movie all of a sudden, because it's not. It's not. at all, in my opinion. There are even people who just don't like this movie because they think it's poorly constructed. They don't like the musical sequences for fans of musicals because this isn't a very good musical in whatsoever. It's poorly constructed in the way that the sequences are put in there. There's only one musical sequence. I believe it was There's Always a Joker in the courtroom. I thought that was the only really good musical sequence, but even then, I'm not well versed in it. Like, I was never a theater kid or anything like that. So I don't think that that's going to go over well with that community, and I doubt in like 10 to 20 years, those same people are going to come back around and think that these flaws are good now and enjoy the themes of the movie. I don't think that's going to happen. And then in regards to what Tarantino said, I completely disagree with that as well, because I can't respect Todd Phillips for making the movie the way he did. I can respect a creator wanting to go against what studio mandates wants, to put their true vision into a film to tell the audience what they're trying to express. But in regards to this, it should never be at the sacrifice of making the people who invest their time and money into your project to hate it. I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should make a movie with the intention of making people unhappy, because movies, although they are forms of art, are also a form of entertainment. And you should not go into making a piece of entertainment with the purpose of making people upset so that you can get your thoughts across. That's not fair to the people that care about what you're making, who trust you to make something they're going to love. Because, using myself as an example, if I were to make a review where you guys got the complete opposite point of what I was trying to say, I would be upset about it. But then if I made a follow-up video to that review, and in it, I virtually called you stupid for misinterpreting what I said. I told you that you were wrong about everything that was in the video. And then you guys probably would have walked away from it being like, yo, this guy's a dick. Are you kidding me? He actively made a video that would piss us all off just so he could get his point across. That's not cool, man. Like, that's what Joker Folie A Deux feels like. And he didn't have to make it this way. This is the big problem that I have with it. I can't empathize with him as a creator when he actively made something that people weren't going to like just so he could tell his point. That's not cool. And especially because I know it could have been done differently that would have made people both happy about the movie and it would have gotten his point across. If you want to get the point across that Arthur Fleck isn't someone that should be worshipped, then just make the Joker a monster in the movie. Just adapt the character of the Joker. The Joker is a terrifying character who usually most people have some level of solace about because he shows up in Batman stories and they expect them to be stopped by Batman. But this is a universe where there are no superheroes. There is no Batman. So, use that to your advantage. Tell a story about how terrifying and menacing the Joker is. Show the world the kind of monster behind the clown mask is there that would scare them away from believing that he's some sort of hero. Frame the movie from the perspective that the people of Gotham, the lawyers, the victims that survived Arthur's rampage, are trying to fight to explain to the world he is not some kind of disgruntled hero. He is a monster that should be viewed as such. Show us how terrifying the Joker could be. Don't make him the most normal person in Arkham. Make him the guy that even the mentally insane are terrified of. Make it so that the guards at Arkham don't want to go near him because they know how crazy he is and how much they could get hurt if they're even within a few inches of him. Make that the character. Continue off of the path you did with the first movie and put that monster in this film. Scare the audience away from the Joker to prove your point. I think that would work so much better. And in the regards of if you want to do that and you want to still have the story be about the fact that Arthur Fleck accepts who he is as a monster, but you want to have him reflect and believe that what he did was wrong, just adapt Batman White Knight. Not saying the story one-to-one or anything like that, but in that story, if you have not read it, it's a story where the Joker gets force-fed some pills in a fight with Batman, and those pills create a chemical concoction that virtually makes him sane. He becomes a normal functioning member of society, and he reflects on all the horrible things that he's done over the course of his life, and he wants to better himself and better the world. But throughout the course of the story, he feels the Joker coming back out of him. He feels the effects of the drugs wearing off on him, and the Joker is slowly creeping back into the world. And by the end of that, he reflects that he still is the Joker. It's still inside of him. It's a part of who he is, but he doesn't want to be that person anymore. He doesn't want to be that monster, so he decides to do the only thing he can do to stop that monster from coming back. And I think that's exactly what Todd Phillips was going for here. Arthur Fleck is Joker in this movie. He's flaunting himself, trying to appeal the masses until he eventually realizes what he's done, how he's hurt people, how he's destroyed lives, and realizes how terrible of a person he is. And then he's like, there is no Joker. I should get the death penalty because I did all of these horrible things. You could still have that adapting the version of Joker from White Knight. That version of Joker does the same thing that Arthur Fleck does. He tries to better himself, realize everything that he did was wrong, and then comes to the realization that the Joker is still a part of him, that he is the Joker at the end of the day, and that he doesn't want to be that monster anymore. I think that would have been fantastic, but that's not what we got here. And honestly, it's just really sad because I want to love this movie. I love the first movie that Todd Phillips made so much, but now that movie feels tainted because I know it then traverses into this weird film that's here to just preach a message that most fans didn't need to hear, that they didn't need to be punished for, and it's just wrong. I don't think making something out of hatred, spite, malice, pettiness, whatever you want to say, however Todd Phillips felt in putting his emotions into this movie to tell this message, I don't think it's fair to everyone who invested themselves into this film, who trusted him to make something that they love. I know I've said this over and over again, but it's because it's how I truly feel. It's just what's inside me, how I felt watching this movie. It was so disheartening to watch this movie just do everything in a way that's just so unpleasant to consume. I just couldn't handle it. And it's just sad to say that at the end of the day, Joker Folie A Deux proved one thing, that the joke was on us. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about Joker Folie A Deux. This was kind of a lot for me because I don't think I've ever really felt this way about a movie before, with disagreeing with the intentions going into making the film rather than just, jokingly, constructively criticizing all the things that I found wrong with it that made it into a movie that I didn't enjoy. So I'm very curious as to what other people feel. I know I've already seen a bunch of different reviews and, people's thoughts and stuff like that. But, if you happen to pass by this video, I'm curious to see what your thoughts were. I want to know if you agree with me in any capacity, if you actually love the movie, because I do actually have friends that enjoyed this movie. One who really loved it. We had a very nice debate about, how the movie feels and the adaptation of the Joker as a whole in the film. And it was a nice conversation. So I'm curious to see what people feel about this movie. If you liked the video, I'm happy that you enjoyed it. I think that's great, and I'm happy I was able to make something that you were able to sit through and, not want to rip your head off through. So that's fantastic. And at the end of the day, remember, folks, you're innocent till proven villainous, and always put on a happy face.